Hello, everyone. Danny Dakari here from Tech and Learning. Thank you for attending today's Tech and Learning Future Proofing Your District Plan Conference. A special thank you to our sponsors, Catch On, Classcraft, FileWave, Global Teletherapy, GradeCam, Sanford Programs, and thank you to all our association partners. Today's virtual conference is focused on taking the lessons learned from current remote learning programs to create long-term plans that support effective teaching and learning, both online and in person. I want to remind everyone to log in to the Conference Hub using the link sent in your confirmation email. Once you are logged in, you can visit a sponsor booth to learn about their offerings and book a meeting or live chat with them, see your personalized agenda, network with over 1,000 of today's attendees via the registrant directory and chat features, access all of the conference resources in the downloads section, win prizes. Throughout the Conference Hub, you will find several buttons to enter yourself into our passport to prizes. Please visit all of the pages using the navigation bar on the top of the page. Every time you find a button and fill in the form, you will earn one entry into the raffle. All entries are eligible for a series of prize drawings. Only one prize per participant. You can enter once for every button you find. We will announce winners via email at the end of the conference. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions for the presenters during the webinar, please submit them through the Zoom chat feature. Please know we capture all questions and our presenters are happy to answer them as time permits. Today's slides and additional resource materials are available and may be accessed within the Downloads tab of the Conference Hub. We encourage you to download any resource or links that you may find useful. Be sure to use the conference hashtag #TLTechLive in your social posts. Please join me in thanking our terrific speakers who have kindly agreed to spend some time with all of us today. I also want to thank each and every one of you for joining us and spending this time together. Please join me in welcoming our presenter, Arati Nagaraj. Setting board priorities during a crisis.
Welcome to the Tech and Learning Virtual Conference, Setting Board Priorities During a Crisis. My name is Arati Nagaraj, and I'm honored to share my work and experiences with you today. I have been a school board member since December 2010 in a TK8 district in Saratoga, California. In addition, I have worked as an instructional designer, professional development trainer, and a tech consultant for the past 20 plus years. I am representing K20 Connect today, a concierge consulting service that offers a wide range of consulting and networking services to provide the necessary tools and expertise to your district, university, or business. We partner with our clients from start to finish, focusing on their needs while constructing new ideas, developing effective strategies, and designing high quality and scalable solutions. I appreciate all of you taking the time to be part of this conference today. So let's get into this. What are our objectives today? At the end of this session, you'll be able to define why and what priorities should be considered as a board. Create a timeline for setting and reviewing priorities. And most importantly, define how to measure progress. So let's start with priorities. So why should the board adopt a new set of priorities during a crisis? Normally, the board creates and adopts goals at the beginning of the school year, which then sets the superintendent in motion to set his or her goals, and that becomes the operational aspects of school districts. In a crisis, all previously set goals don't apply and cease to matter. The focus becomes on the crisis and situation at hand, so other distractions need to be removed. For example, if the board had created a goal, we would like to create a working group to redesign the middle school program. Obviously, during a crisis, you have to hit the pause button on this because it becomes irrelevant. The staff is responding to the crisis, and so the leadership has to be aligned with them so that time, money, and resources are in balance. Alignment and trust between all school operations is imperative for anything to be executed with fidelity. In addition, time, energy, and resources should be kept in alignment. Publicly monitor outcomes by discussing progress during board meetings. This comes in the way of staff reporting the different departments, what they're doing, where they're headed, what the problems are, and all of those. And this keeps the internal and external communication open, so that you can ensure transparency and reduce the unnecessary churn of trying to fix inaccurate information or ideas that could be floating around. Essentially, during a crisis, it boils down to two major focus areas: health and safety of the students and staff, and student learning. And most importantly, there should be measurable outcomes, so there is accountability and focus. Let's take a look at a few examples. A crisis priority could be: the superintendent will ensure the well-being of all students. Example of the measurable goal: teachers and staff will ensure there is at least one touch point, either online or on the phone, with each child in the school every week until the end of the school year. So here, the measures are one touch point, each child, and every week until the end of the school year. These are really finite and concrete measures so that staff, community, board, superintendent, everybody knows what needs to get done. So here's another example. The superintendent will engage all students in learning. So an example of the measurable goal: the number of hours students will engage in online learning per day will increase from 2 hours to 3 hours from April 1st, 2020 to June 1st, 2020. So the measures here are the increase. So you're showing it'll go from X to Y, and the duration from April to June. So you're saying that whatever the measure goes from X to Y in Z amount of time. That's kind of the formula that you could use to create your measurable goal. Moving on to the next little section: how do we achieve all this, and what is the timeline, and how do we measure success? Let's go through a sequence of events. First and foremost, as I said earlier, all previously set board goals and are suspended because they are irrelevant. And next, there should be a way to give your superintendent the authority to make decisions. Sometimes your state board of education or your county board of education or your local organization will come up with a resolution that you could then adopt. This can then go into effect immediately. Why, you might ask? During a crisis, things are changing rapidly, and there isn't always time to call an emergency board meeting and make decisions. So those decisions rest in the hands of the superintendent. Creating a draft set of priorities for the superintendent to then work with staff to fine-tune and create the measurable outcomes becomes the next iterative process. So let's see what happens when a crisis hits. What do you have to consider? These are the things that really what you have to consider right away. Please don't micromanage the superintendent and staff. They are working incredibly hard to ensure all needs are met and at the same time monitoring the status of the crisis. The last thing they want is each board member telling them what to do and when to do it. This takes up time, and most of all, they're getting conflicting messages and are unable to prioritize. So the board has to be united in what they hope to accomplish and be supportive of the work being done. Designating one person, usually the board president, as the spokesperson, and a regular cadence of communication, both from the superintendent and to the superintendent, is setting the right expectations for everyone. The other piece is to set up a regular cadence of special or emergency meetings, or the criteria for which you would set these up is especially important to keep the entire board informed. It gives the board an opportunity to ask questions during a board meeting, which is a public business meeting. It gives an opportunity to get things clarified, and it most importantly keeps everyone informed, the staff, the community, and everyone is on the same page. So, post-crisis, hopefully we'll get there. What is it that we do? Exhale and reset. Everybody needs to do that because it has been a very trying and contentious situation. So, you reflect on the work done, the lessons learned, and the positive outcomes from all stakeholders is important. So the staff, the teachers, the student, the community, the extended community, and the board. Potentially, a committee could be formed in order to monitor the work being done and to create plans for situations like this that could occur in the future. It's the start, stop, reset model that you can use. So what should you do next? Right after this session, probably. So some things for you to consider after this session. What are your board priorities during this current crisis? Have you created them? Or are you just letting your superintendent and your staff continue the way they're going? How might you go about creating them? Think about it. Work with your board, work with your superintendent to come up with a process if you haven't created your crisis priorities already. How do you communicate them to the stakeholders? And most importantly, how will you measure and track progress? What is your process? Because we can keep speaking in broad terms, but ultimately it comes down to you and your board and your community and your students and staff, because everything is very, very localized. So I would like to thank you all for being here today. Please subscribe to K20connect.net to get our latest news and reports. This is my Twitter handle and my email address should you wish to connect with me. Now it's time for the Q&A.
Yes, so I'm going to open the room up for Q&A with RT in regards to setting board priorities during a crisis. Arati, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Danny, and thank you all for attending. I would love to listen to or hear or read in the chat what questions you might have, what thoughts you have, what you have done already, what you're struggling to do. I'm happy to be here to respond to that, or we can share ideas as well. It would also be nice to know what affiliation all of you have who are here. It would be, are you a board member? Are you in the leadership team in a district or any other organization that has to make some decisions during this crisis? So if you want to share that in the chat. We have a superintendent. So if you want to unmute yourself as well, and if you want to say something, that should work. I believe that should work in this forum. So the superintendent wants to say what's going on in their district. It would be great to hear what some of the challenges are.
So I would say one of the challenges has been to really manage through the crisis and, set interim goals through the crisis, but also then to work with keeping some of the day-to-day going and how to navigate both of those things simultaneously.
Thank you, Amy. Yes, you're absolutely right about the day-to-day, as well as keeping the ship moving in the right direction. And that's why I said in one of the slides I said is for the board to not micromanage, because you as a superintendent have really what's going on the ground and what's happening on a day, and it's changing hourly at times, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. And it's hard to keep those things moving. You have to satisfy so many people. And can you share a little bit about how your board has your board created any of these crisis priorities? Have you worked with your board in doing that?
So we have not, and that's part of the reason why I kind of wanted to attend this session, to see maybe something that we can do, because we're maybe out of the immediate crisis, but I still think we're in crisis planning. So that was one reason why I wanted to attend today and see what guidance and how we could work together moving forward.
Absolutely. And, it's, one thing that has to be kept in mind is because things are changing so rapidly, you have to kind of make these priorities sort of, for the next 3 months, over the next 2 months, but constantly revisit them because of the changing needs and changing direction that we're getting from various organizations, right? Like right from the CDC to the federal government, to your state government, to your local health department, and all of that. So how do you navigate all of that? But at the same time, important to set those priorities. And it's more so that you don't get micromanaged, correct? And getting different messages from each of your board members. And I think that is a really key point and the intent of creating these priorities.
Absolutely makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome, and good luck.
Thank you.
Where are you the superintendent, may I ask?
Outside of Chicago and Illinois.
Got it. Okay. Anyone else wants to share where they're from and what some of their challenges are, or what some of their successes have been? That would be really nice to hear as well. We have a quiet group here. Do we have other superintendents or do we have board members that want to share? And one of the things that I'm seeing in many boards right now is, of course, the reopening of schools, right? Everyone knows we are opening. Most districts will be opening, but how are we opening is the key question. And I think that's the other piece about how do you as a board create that priority for your school, your superintendent? Do you create a task force? How often are you going to have those board meetings? You know, what is it that you want to accomplish? And does a board member be on those committees? There's a lot of those things, and it all really depends on your local, on your board, on your district, because we know that that is very unique. Has anybody created these priorities already? We do have a very quiet bunch today.
Yeah, we have a quiet crowd. Please use the chat feature if you want to reach out to Arati.
And Danny, they can unmute themselves, right? And
yeah, I could help them unmute themselves. So if anybody wants to speak, send a message in the chat and I will unmute you. We'll give everybody about 2 more minutes. Anybody wants to reach out through the chat and I could unmute you. If we don't hear from anybody in 2 minutes, Arati, I'll give you the floor to make some closing remarks, and then I'll close right after you.
Thank you. Not sure we have any more questions, Danny.
Hey, just got a message in from Christopher.
Great. There's a question or a comment. Not entirely sure. Well, Christopher, would you like to share that comment?
Yeah, Christopher, try unmuting yourself. You should be able to speak.
Yeah, I just it just popped up. Yeah, more just and I kind of know where you were going with on that early in your presentation, but like I said, it's always one of those challenges, the idea that during a crisis, you know, the wheels come off the bus, so to speak. You know, it's still important to say, hey, if those objectives and goals of a board were important pre-crisis, they're still important. I wouldn't use the language of kind of abandon or walk away from those per se, but I would definitely say they need to still be viewed in that lens. But yes, they may not be the chief priorities at that moment. I agree with that.
Fair. That's fair to say. And I guess, yes, you're probably right about abandoning. It's more about putting the pause on it, putting the pause button, and not having those as front and center. But at the same time, you know, you got to create these new priorities so that there is a focus.
Agreed.
And,
yeah.
And again, it depends on the crisis, right? It depends. I mean, this one has been very, very unusual. You know, another, natural disaster could be a different one, and that's could be localized. But again, it just depends on the crisis as well.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think this one was interesting because a lot of us, when we're dealing with crises like this, it's usually we're not trying to do our core day job during the crisis, right? We're not trying to still educate students. We might be just trying to get them away or just, shelter at home, but we're not trying to continue instruction. And so I think this presented a new opportunity for boards to think about continuity of operations the way that other organizations have always done, right? That we've always had DR plans, but we've never really thought of occupying or teaching during one of these types of disasters. But now we've got to pivot to, hey, there could be a Friday night when everything is normal, but by Saturday it's not, and so kids can't come back to school on Monday. And so we're rethinking that as well. We're rethinking how do we pivot in a way that becomes very fluid, and we don't have to go through kind of another kind of ramp up, and deploying equipment, gear, and other types of things to keep continuity of schooling going.
Absolutely. You exactly. Very, very well put. Thank you for sharing that. And the other unusual part of this is that everyone on the planet is sort of at this standstill and with an unknown of what the timeline is, when it's going to end, and how it's going to end, and what it's going to look like. So it truly is a very different situation about the operations piece and the continuity of learning. Absolutely. Thank you, Christopher, for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christopher. Arati, you have any closing remarks?
No, I mean, I'm just, all I have to say is whoever is a school board member or anybody all of you actually, thank you for doing what you're doing right now, thinking, planning, reacting, processing, empathizing, sympathizing, all of that, because we have all got to figure this out together, and we'll just chart the course ahead. So with schools closing soon, but then also thinking about reopening. So thank you very much. And if you have any other questions or you want to reach out, find me on the Conference Hub or Arti at k20connect.net. Happy to have a conversation or help you think through the process with you. So thank you, Danny, and thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you, Arti. Hey everyone, so Danny Dakari here again from Tech and Learning. On behalf of our entire team, I want to thank you all for attending today's Tech and Learning Future-Proofing Your District Plan Conference. A special thank you to our sponsors, Catch On, Classcraft, FileWave, Global Teletherapy, GradeCam, Sanford Programs, and thank you to all of our association partners once again. Please join me in thanking our terrific speaker today. And I also want you to thank each and every one of you for joining us and spending this time together. And don't forget to register for next week's Tech and Learning Roundtable webinar on Wednesday, June 3rd. Join Dr. Keisha Ray as she speaks with district leaders about the security issues related to online learning as schools plan for next year, such as keeping data private, cybersecurity concerns, and monitoring online activity to make sure students are safe and content is very appropriate. To register, please visit techlearning.com/events. We look forward to getting together with you all again in person very soon. Until then, stay safe and stay healthy.